Welcome to my kitchen, and today we are going to make tuna sashimi Sicilian style. A delicious combination of shrimp with red pepper in a beautiful wine sauce. Pan-fried filet of cod with concasse of tomatoes. And we finish with pan-fried scallops with a sauce made out of peas and bacon. And I'm gonna share with you the story of my father Vincenzo, Vinny, when he taught me and my brother how to fish. Come on, come for the recipes. Stay for the stories. It's the Feast of the Seven Fishes. At my house was 7 fishes every day. My father preferred fish over meat. So I assume that it was like this for everybody, but it wasn't. Also, my father loved to fish, and some of the coolest things that we used to do together, my mom, my dad, my brother, Mario, myself, my aunt Buliti, sometimes my uncle Michele. You know, my father would rent a boat from a fisherman and would take us out to the sea so we could fish our own fish, then bring it home and cook it. The recipes that I'm about to share with you in this show are ideal for you at home to make your own version of the 7 courses of fish that Italians like to serve at Christmas. But each one of these recipes is ideal for any dinner you want to make at home when you don't want to cook meat, you want to do just fish. The next recipe I'm about to show you is unique. Tuna sashimi Sicilian style. This block of tuna is spectacular. Look how beautiful the slices are. You can make them as thick or as thin as you want, but you want to have a little bit of something to chew on. If you make it too thin, it's like having paper. We wipe the board. I wash my hands. Why? I don't know. It's automatic. I like to have a clean area around me. Let's get the dressing now that will bring the flavor to this tuna. So the first thing that we're going to use is capers. And here we go with some capers. What I've done with this particular capers, I've taken them out of the jar, and what I've done, I've washed them with water. Why? A lot of people, friends of mine that I talk to, tell me that the capers are way too salty. The reason why they're too salty is because more often than not, what they taste is not so much the caper, rather is the brine, and the brine is very salty. Together with the caper, we have a chop. This chop is a series of herbs, all fresh herbs. Do not use dry herbs for this. Please don't. For any things you can, but this, everything has to be fresh. We have parsley, basil, and mint, which we chop super, super fine. We're gonna add it now to the mix. This is orange zest that I have zested earlier, which also I have chopped very, very fine. So together with that, we're going to add a little bit of orange juice that we squeeze. Now this is one part of acid that I want to give. The other part of acid that I want to give is balsamic vinegar. Why balsamic vinegar? Well, balsamic vinegar has a very strong flavor, and it has a fantastic type of acidity with an innate bit of sweetness onto it. Now, let's go to the other thing, which is a secret, but I will tell you what that is. This is the Nyxtelino Rub. With a couple of shakes just like that, that's all that we need. We do not want to overpower it. Then, one more thing that we're going to do is an addition of sesame oil. Sesame oil is not all that famous in Sicily, even though now you'll find quite a supply of it. But because of the fact that it brings a little bit of flavor that's the original flavor of the sashimi, I like to do it. Now, at this point, I like to put this instrument away, and we're gonna be basically mounting the assembly that will give us the dressing that we want. By adding extra virgin olive oil, one of the things that I want to do with all the acidity that we have in there is to also incorporate some air. And what you can see as I'm mixing this is that it's thickening up. All these flavors are in there. Look how pretty it is. I absolutely adore it. Excellent, excellent. The last thing that I like to do is to actually take a taste. Fantastic, perfect. You don't want it too strong, you don't want it too light. This one is absolutely perfect. Follow the recipe, you cannot make a mistake. Well, the dressing is right. The sashimi is cut in its perfect pieces. Let me show you how to plate it. I remember the first time I had sushi, I didn't know what to make of it. And the first bite that I had, it was just amazing. The sashimi with the tuna and this particular quality of tuna, look how pretty it is. With each bite that you will take, this is going to totally melt in your mouth. The orange, the capers, the complementary connection that all these flavors have into putting together this wonderful tapestry. This tapestry that will forever be with you. And every time you'll think of a tuna sashimi, you go, ah, sashimi, like Nyxtelino makes it. But he's from Sicily. And that's the beauty of it. How old you are, I don't know, but I'll tell you one thing. No matter how much you age, you can always learn something beautiful. And this, to me, is one of the most beautiful lessons I've ever learned. And this, dear friends, is how you make tuna sashimi Sicilian style. And even in those small moments, my father would always say to me and my brother in front of my mom, in front of my Aunt Politi, says, Nicolino, look, on the other side of the ocean, right over there, and there's another ocean that's even bigger. And on the other side of that ocean, there is America. In America, the ocean is always full of fish. It's not like here in Sicily, you gotta wait until you fish something. Over there, you put it down, boom, the fishes come right out. As a matter of fact, there is so many, sometimes they jump right into the boat. I know he was kidding with me, but I love to hear the story. I love to hear the story. And it was great the way he would do it, because he would gesticulate, he would tell these things. So I think that I have a connection to fish based on the fact that it's connected to some of the happiest moments of my life. The next recipe is a very common recipe at the Stellino's household, and it's all about shrimp in a wine sauce with peppers. Where did the idea come from? Well, it actually happened. And one time I was home, all I had was shrimp, peppers, and wine, and I figured, how about I make something fantastic? Let me show you how to make it. Now, to this shrimp, I'm going to add my special spice mixture. Basically, is onion powder, garlic powder, salt, pepper, paprika in equal amounts. All of this flavoring that's in the shrimp itself will coat the outside of it, and it's gonna make it wonderful. The oil is hot. What is it missing? I'll tell you what, the red pepper flakes. I'm so glad my wife is not here. She killed me. She does not like spicy at all. Now, one of the things and the reasons why I add the red pepper flakes to the oil right now is because the red pepper flake, as it cooks, as it fries actually inside the oil, also brings out this wonderful spiciness into the oil itself. It's not overwhelming, it's just enough. And when the oil gets hot enough, that's when we actually add the shrimps to it. Once the shrimp is cooked to the right point, you don't want to cook it all the way through. You want to leave it a little bit raw on the inside because we'll finish them in the sauce. What I want to do is to take them out of the pan. What's about to happen next is the most important part of this recipe. The simplest one, and nonetheless, the most important. So what are you going to do? We have all the flavoring that's been left behind by the shrimp in the pan, and now what we want to do is make sure that it connects with all the additional flavoring that we're going to give it to. So first we go with the peppers. One of the things that I like to do is to stir them real well and do this on medium heat, and as you see this, it picks up all the things that are stuck at the bottom. All of those are wonderful flavor bases. You want to cook this for a couple of minutes until they start to soften up a little bit. Once the peppers get to this point, the next thing we're going to do, chopped garlic. At this point, move quickly all the way around. You don't want the garlic to sit on the hot metal underneath. Ah, guarda che bellezza. If you were here, you could smell the aroma. There's the garlic that's coming through, the peppers that have their own flavoring, plus all the spicing that are placed on the shrimp that's also combining with all the other elements. The last addition that I have here is a little bit of parsley. And I'm going to be adding to the dish, just like this. Parsley was my father's favorite fresh herb. He put it everywhere. I think if he could have, he would have put it in his aftershave. He loved it so much. Guarda, the aroma is splendid. At this point, we have to make a choice. Because of the fact that the shrimp are a pretty good size, I feel very comfortable now to add all of this into the peppers. and you want to mix them together. Look what a beautiful coloring they're all picking up. Just do this for a couple of minutes. Make sure that everything is imbued with the flavor of everything that's surrounding it. This is at the very center of creating the perfect dish. The last thing we're going to do is something that you see me do quite often, and that is wine. I'm using white wine. You can use anything you want. My favorite for this particular dish is Sauvignon Blanc. If you don't like Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, especially California Chardonnay, would make a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful dish. The shrimp is finishing up cooking. The wine is wonderfully evaporating. We're almost there. The last thing that we're going to do now, we're going to bring this to sauce consistency. How? We're going to add some softened butter. And as we add this butter, because pretty much the dish is ready, we turn off the heat underneath. There's plenty of heat in the pan. And as the butter melts, it creates the sauce for us. Well, the dish is ready. Now, let me show you how to plate it. This is one of the simplest and most elegant dishes that you can possibly make. This is the bounty of the ocean, which is translated in a terrestrial dish. The translation takes place through an application which is very attentive of both passion and love. If you don't have passion and love, well, you would have an issue when it comes to this. This, in my opinion, is a quick trip to my past and at the same time a vision of presence of what the future will be like. Because with inspiration like this, there is no way that you can make something better than this with this great blessing. And this, my dear friends, is how you make shrimp with peppers and wine sauce. A fun expression the first time he came to see the fish here in America. How the market was. I don't know, Nyxtelino, this fish died twice. So what does it mean, Dad? First time when they cooked it, second time when they put it over there. Look, it's got no life left in it. Now, my father was so entrepreneurial that in spite of the fact that he spoke no English whatsoever, only speaking Sicilian, he got connected to other Sicilian immigrants who were here in Los Angeles, where at the time I was already living with my wife, and he found out that in the town of San Pedro, which is not that far away from Los Angeles, there was a whole center of Sicilian immigrants who were all in the fishery business. All of them fishermen. Either they warehouse it, they fish it themselves, they distribute it, and many of them had really grown prosperous by doing so. My father had a most amazing way of getting to talk to people. Merluzzo is the Italian word for cod. What I want to show you next is how to make one of my favorite recipes. It is a filet of cod, pan-fried and topped with concasseo tomatoes. The reason why I love this recipe so much is because it brings me back to my youth, using a fish that was a favorite of my dad, and pretty soon will be a favorite of yours as well. Let me show you how to make it. Let me show you how to make a concasseo tomato. This is very simple. What we have in here is tomatoes that we have actually cut in small quarter dice, exactly like this. To this, what we want to do is to add a little bit of chopped basil. You can do parsley if you don't have basil, but basil I prefer. And then a little bit of chopped garlic. See how much there is of it? This is all that you need for this amount. No more than that, otherwise the garlic will be too powerful. And at this point is extra virgin olive oil that we add, and quite a bit of it. We want to have this as a fresh summer sauce to put on top of the fish. Then you only want to do at this point is just mix everything together, gently, kindly. Now that we got them all mixed up, flavoring, and that's my spice. This is the Nyx Secret Rub, really secret. It's equal parts of onion powder, garlic powder, salt, pepper, and paprika. You're gonna let this now rest for a while, and while this rests, let's attend to our fish. The last thing that we need to do is to actually flavor the cod, and it's quite simple. What I am doing is I'm placing a little bit of oil on all sides, top, bottom as well. And then we're gonna hit it with a little bit of the Nyxtelino flavor base. Nyx Secret Rub, so to speak. This particular flavor pack is going to be awesome for us. Why? As soon as it hits the hot pan, this is going to crust over and all the flavoring will be trapped right in there. How is it going to affect you? Imagine, if you can, biting into something, and each bite that you take has this wonderful, crispy, flavor-packed essentiality to it that guides you all the way through. Also keep in mind that this particular fish, merluzzo, cod, has a very flaky skin as well. And at the same time, it has a certain robustness to it. My brother once, as a compliment, or maybe as an insult, told me that I cook fish and I make it taste just like a steak. I don't know what he meant exactly, but I want you to be aware of that. This is wonderful to do on the barbecue, it's wonderful to do on the plancha, and the technique I'm about to show you is something you can do at home anytime you want to. So this is hot enough. Let me show you to cook it. What you're noticing is that there is not a whole lot of oil, even though this is a non-stick pan. I am taking advantage of several things. First, I want for the pan to be super hot, and we're roughly about 400, 450 degrees. Two, I have a tiny bit of oil in the pan and a little bit of oil that I place on the fish, so there's going to be a separation. And here we go. Now, for those of you looking at this, you might think that this is something wrong with the fish. Actually, this is how the fillet is shaped. There was a strategical choice that we wanted to make, and by cutting it this way, we got the two parts of the fillet. Once we turn it very gently, it will remain whole, but if you see this, do not be concerned as if you made a mistake and you cut the fish the wrong way, or there's something wrong with the fish. It's just the way it is. You want to do this about now 3 minutes per side. Now we're going to turn our fish. This is all the flavor pack on top. The best part comes now. The butter does two things for us. Almost creates an element of cream all around the fish, a buttery taste that you can only imagine how fantastic that is when you bite into it. And basically, it unifies all the flavors into one perfect assembly. But this is what I love. It's time for us to turn off the fish. The cod is ready. The concassé is ready. Let me show you how to plate it. Everything that I taste in this particular dish reminds me of Sicily. This dish, to me, is the embodiment of Sicily, and in a certain way is also the embodiment of my father and all the teachings that he gave me. Not that my mom didn't count. My mom was extremely capable, and not only she taught me an enormous amount of things, but she was always very attentive in making sure that I would understand the lessons that were taught to me. And when it comes to this fish, I think that finally, after so many years, I know what I'm doing. And this is how you make filet of cod topped with a concassé of fresh tomatoes. And I remember in the late 80s going into San Pedro with my dad, and he was treated as a king. And this man that owned this astonishing fishery would make everything available to my dad. And I say, Papa, how did it happen that this guy you just barely met, you know, treats you with such respect? I mean, he's not one of our cousins, he's not connected to our family. He says, Nyxtelino, do you remember the fish that I brought home last week? I said, yeah, Dad, you took it and you cooked it and you took it out of the house. I don't know what happened. I brought it to him. And he told me that if I can make a fish sing like this, we have just become best friends. Scallops in Italian is cappesante. The recipe that follows, though, is very American. It's all about me. I actually have a sauce that I'm making with bacon, peas, and cream. Very simple, very tasty. Let me show you how to make it. In the pot already, what I have is butter melting over medium heat. We don't need high heat for this because in this particular case, the thing that I've done, I've taken the bacon and I've already browned it. And together with the bacon, another wonderful thing that we're going to do is peas. You can use fresh peas if you're lucky to find them, or frozen peas. And they go in together. At this point, all that you want to do is just have the bacon and everything else reheating in the pan together, just like this. The only bit of flavoring that we're going to add is a little bit of my rub. This is salt, pepper, onion powder, garlic powder, paprika. I don't put too much of it because the bacon already has quite a bit of density with the salt that it's used to cure it. Already you can see picking up the color. This is one of the fastest sauces you'll ever see. As a matter of fact, let me show you what comes next. And here we go. Cream, whipping cream, heavy whipping cream. Even in heavy whipping cream, there's a good portion of cream and there's a good portion of water in it. And so by reheating it gently, exactly the way we're doing it right now, this will reduce once all the water evaporates out and leaves us with the pure cream underneath, and it's going to be a luscious and extremely fabulously tasting sauce. As this now comes to the point of picking up a little bit of a simmer, it is the beginning where I want to give it a little bit of parsley on it, for flavor and as well for color. So here we go. You never want to go over a medium heat. If you cook the cream on too high heat, the cream will split. Instead, in this gentle simmering scenario as this is, you will get the perfect rendition. Basically, the cream is finished. So what I would propose is, let's put the cream in the back, we'll let it simmer over there, and with my cast iron skillet, we'll place it right here, and we'll get started on medium heat with that. Now, why cast iron? I have copper pans everywhere. Why is it that I'm using cast iron? In this particular case, cast iron has a significant value to it. First and foremost, it absorbs an enormous amount of heat and explosively ejects it out. What I'm trying to create for the scallops in this particular case is a little bit of a crust. But how do we do that? Come over here, I want to show you something. The 3 scallops that we have in here, we're going to brush with a little bit of extra light olive oil. And the reason why I use extra light instead of extra virgin is because it has a higher resistance to high heat. And the heat we're going to have in the pan is going to be very, very high from the word go. At this point is what I like to do with a little bit of the rub that I have. And you already see me use it in the sauce. The reason why I do it this way is because I want for the flavoring to stick right on the scallops as it creates the crust. And this is the most effective way to do it. And on the first turn, you can see exactly what I was trying to say. This little crust that's done in here is exactly where we're trying to go. The crust is not just something that makes them look pretty. The crust is also something that brings out the flavor. Keep in mind that we don't want to cook the scallops all the way through so that they are super hot on the inside. We want it nice and warm on the inside. And this is exactly where we want to go with this point. You can almost set your watch by it. Something like this, these scallops so small, you don't want to go any more than 2 minutes per side. That's about all that you would need, because even when you take the scallops out, they will continue to cook. All right, the scallops are ready. You can see after so many years of seasoning, the cast iron is the perfect non-stick surface. That's exactly what I love. All right, let's now move the cast iron aside. The sauce is exactly where we want it to be at. There is one secret addition that I have. I know if you go to Italy and you do it this way, they're gonna kick you out. As a matter of fact, they hate to have any form of fish and cheese mixed together. But my wife loves it, and so do I. So here we are with a little bit of Parmesan cheese. It's not a lot, just a tiny bit, and it's going to bring a certain finish to the sauce that's beyond anything you've ever experienced before. All that we need to do at this point is to turn off the heat altogether and simply mix the Parmesan on the inside. That's it. Done perfectly. Look how beautiful and how thick. The sauce is so flavorful, and it's taken no time at all to make it. All right, the sauce is made. The scallops are ready. Let me show you how to plate it. Scallops by themselves, they appear to be nothing more than beautiful deliciousness caught from the ocean. But in this particular case, they're elevated to something else. The crust on the outside and underneath is the first crackling that you got to go through to get into the inner core of it. The inner core that's almost like cream-like, marshmallow-like, will melt into your mouth. And together, every single bit of this flavors underneath, the bacon, the peas, the Parmesan, and the cream, create for you the combination that is almost magical. It fascinates, it seduces, it brings you into a whole new realm of senses, the likes of which you've never seen before. And this, dear friend, is how you make scallops with peas, bacon, and cream sauce. My father had the ability of establishing relationships through the means of cooking, even with people on the other side of the world. In this particular case, for me, it was astonishing to see my father in his own element. But to see my father so happy like that, surrounded by fishes, still remains for me one of the greatest memories I've ever had. So maybe that's why I like fish so much.